exciting people that I met at the Infinity Festival is Erin. And I would love to invite you up and ask you to talk about what you demonstrated because I thought it was so cool. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I've sent you an invite. If you would like to come up and tell us about what you had there, that would be great. Um, Very excited about the game that they were showing off. And she was one of the women in XR that was part of the Qualcomm display. So at Infinity Festival, there were a lot of interesting things going on. Carlos, did you have a question about Infinity Festival?
Yeah, no, definitely. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but that being said, I think I jumped in a tiny bit late, but I'd love to hear, just the top trends that you saw there, specifically, within the NFT space, just to kind of get it jump started talking about NFTs. But just definitely wanted to see if you saw anything new that you thought really stood out. Perfect example is I love hearing from enterprise companies, so I'm excited to hear from Erin when she comes up about Qualcomm, what they're working on. But that being said, if you're aware of any other things that really stood out to you that you said, hey, this is so innovative and different, this is something that I haven't seen, and then ultimately any trends that you specifically saw. And I know that you kind of touched on gamification, but it would be great to hear how they're gamifying the gamification aspect. And perfect example is, I previously, I'm an owner of one of the Dapper Labs Pac-Man Bandai um, Pac-Mans that was a limited edition for the 31st annual thing. And basically, it allows me to have a helmet in the metaverse, which is an unlockable content by having that NFT. So I just love to hear what other people are doing and how they're exploring that space.
Yeah, I didn't really see all the details of the games, and I'd look for some other folks that had seen that to come up. But one application that I saw that I thought was very cool was NFTs that were locked to artwork, and it was an avatar that you could create, or an avatar that you could buy as an NFT, but it was abstract. So instead of buying a jacket or a hairdo, you could be an abstract and beautiful shape in the metaverse instead of just being a human-like character. And I thought that was really beautiful and interesting way for us to connect, because so often you try to figure out, well, does the avatar look like me, does the avatar just look like somebody I wish I looked like? But in this case, it was just completely divorced from how people look in real life, and it was a really interesting concept. So I thought that was exciting, and we're trying to get um, the creator of that NFT to be on the Zoom one of these weeks, because I thought that was really fascinating. But I would say, in terms of trends, I saw a lot of connection between NFT and art. Of course, that was a big focus of the Infinity Festival, but I also saw a lot of interest in NFTs, and I had anticipated that most of the people there would be beginners in the space, but I was wrong. There was really a base layer of education about that I that I wasn't anticipating, and people had some really deep and insightful questions to ask in the Q&A. So I was really emboldened by that.
Sounds really exciting. I actually think that there's going to be a lot of crossover. As far as the Infinity Festival, it was interesting because it was going up against NFT NYC at the same time.
Yes.
So, hopefully they had a great turnout. I'm a big supporter of conferences, and I'm really excited just to see what the media is going to be doing. Specifically, I felt like that was probably more focused towards enterprise players, while NFT NYC was more of a gathering of all the major influencers. And actually, some really cool things came out of there. Perfect example is, I don't know if you heard about Quentin Tarantino dropping some NFTs that he's going to be doing of scenes that never released from like Kill Bill and a bunch of other movies. So
That
that
is such a cool thing. Yeah, I
Oh my
did see that.
God. I'm so excited about that. So I thought that that was an interesting thing that kind of would carry over into the Infinity Festival next year. So just really excited to see these trends across, all borders and just emerging across all the United States.
Yeah, I was very interested in that, and I was also reading some of the takeaways from that. And it's interesting how important community is. I mean, I think in the NFT and DeFi and DAO track at Infinity Festival, the word community was mentioned at least, 4 times an hour because it's such an important concept. And even across all the different panels, everybody was saying the same thing, that it's really a community first experience. And I'm reading the same kind of things coming out of NFT NYC. But I think NFT NYC was much more of a NFT buyers and collectors dream, Carlos. It seemed like the place for you to be. I was thinking about that.
Ironically, I definitely was there virtually through a couple different friends that were there. I was really surprised at how quickly it sold out, and I believe it was in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Offering. So I
Hmm.
just want to point out that, I have never seen an NFT conference be so extremely successful so quickly. Um,
Yes.
and NFT NYC is doing something very unique. So I think that that's something we should kind of talk about a little bit because they are more focused a little bit on the DeFi space. While I'm a very heavy enterprise player, as you could probably guess, or if you've heard me speak before, I'm all about licensing of NFTs and stuff like that. But man, am I amazed by these DeFi projects that are really, I think, will resonate with audiences. I do think that some of these do have the ability to maintain these projects by themselves, which is something new and unique, versus a lot of these, I would say, projects that honestly, you know, really aren't putting any work into it. They just launched an NFT, sold it to people, and left it alone to die. Um, so there's definitely a lot going on behind the scenes with some very powerful players. I can just speak to you. Perfect example is I was, I'm close friends with the head of engineering over at JP Morgan Chase for the Onyx blockchain project, which is a
Uh
satellite
huh.
project. And he basically was trying to get tickets. So I can tell you how big of a deal it was, even for corporate people, once they heard about it, to try to get out there as soon as possible.
I heard that last year there were a couple hundred people. This year they had a cap of 5,000 people, and over 3,000 people were on the waiting list. So it there was really a lot of demand. Can you tell us anything else about some of these DeFi projects that were so interesting to you? I'd love to hear some details.
Yeah, ironically, it's kind of funny that you mentioned the shapes and objects. There's a new one that's basically you can buy your individual pixel. So you're just buying like a pixel or a color, and
Hmm.
then people are creating different remixes and different projects, and that's a new huge trend that's going on. Is basically taking existing art. Perfect example is something like Hakatoa, who's a well-known influencer, and they're remixing what they call remixing the artwork, and they're reselling the NFTs. So it's artists that are basically r- redrawing or recreating the current NFTs and then reselling them. So it's a really cool way to collaborate in between different artists. And I think that that's really an interesting project to look out for, and that's in the DeFi space. These remixes, I think, are going to be a lot bigger than people think for artists because just imagine, something that is picking up like somebody's doing something like Boss Logic that we know that Boss Logic is, probably one of the most well-known artists in the space that everybody's trying to get to. And he does stuff for Star Wars, Disney, etc. And then he does a bunch of individual projects himself in the DeFi space. But that being said, his projects are some that I definitely look out for just because I see the growth there. I know that VV, which is another pretty big application that just signed Disney and a bunch of other major licenses. They also have acquired some new DeFi artists that they'll be launching kind of next week at DesignerCon. So you'll hear about those new artists, but it's really interesting to see that they're able to pair DeFi, you know, well-known artists that are in the space that are, have artwork in, anywhere and everywhere, but they're actually able to pair them, have even the Disneys of the world be okay that they be in the same platform at the same time, their artwork. So
Mm,
what I mean by that is like you're going to see a Walt Disney hat next to a DeFi project by, some unknown female artist that you've never heard of, which is really cool.
yeah. I mean, one of the things that came out on the panels, the second panel that I moderated, was Live Planet was talking about how their platform is going to enable people to create programmable NFTs. And I think this is an important trend going forward. The idea that you not only hold an NFT, but that NFT can change over time given different variables or different triggers that can be developed either in advance or later on. And I was wondering if you've had any experience with, if David or Carlos, you've had any experience with these programmable NFTs yet.
Go for it, Dave. If you have an experience, if not, I can definitely mention one as well.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Okay. So I know perfect example is once again not to take it back to the same company, but Vivi recently what they did was really interesting with a promotion. There was a book that they had sold that was an NFT that was called the Book of Necromance or something like that. It's pretty well known in anime. And what they did was they waited, I'd say, approximately 6 months. And then out of nowhere, they basically said, hey, on our app right now, we're going to unlock one of these NFTs is actually going to be animated and it's going to have some sort of, new thing in there. They didn't say what was going to happen, which NFT it was going to be. But long story short, it ended up being this book. And now all of a sudden, basically they had programmed it in advance so that basically the book opens now, you can read. It has all kinds of things specifically within that book. So yes, there are some people that are doing some really interesting with things with that, and they are strategically doing this in advance and programming these. Marvel's doing this as well. I know that for a fact, and a really exciting thing. And I'm going to keep going back to Disney because I think that that's the most exciting thing for me in the space right now. Is Disney actually is talking about using their NFTs within the park? So I don't know how they would be activated or what exactly perks or what exactly it would do for you. But if you hold a Disneyland key, apparently, there's going to be some integration in the parks in the future.
That's really cool, Carlos. Hi, Mariana. Welcome. Thought I would give you a chance to introduce yourself and say hello to everyone. Oh,
Sorry, my phone is malfunctioning a bit.
well,
Let me replug in.
okay. Yeah, that's really interesting, Carlos. And one of the things that we talked about a lot at the event at Infinity Festival was this idea of what I call the underpants gnome approach to NFTs. I don't know if any of you are South Park fans, but there was an episode where Cartman was working with the underpants gnomes, and they had a sort of like little PowerPoint presentation that says, one, steal underpants, two, profit. And there's like nothing in between. There's no plan. And I think a lot of people have this notion about NFTs. Oh, I'm just going to make an NFT and I'm going to make millions of dollars. But obviously, there's a lot of work that has to happen in between. And a lot of that work is community building work and building the Discord and making sure that you have people ready and excited to not only participate, but evangelize and share and build the culture around your project. So that was something we talked about a lot. Mariana, are you ready to say hello?
Hello, hi Mariana. Good to see everyone. Founder of Infiom, and we are discussing NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs here, but we also have our virtual Infiom Salon tomorrow, 12:30 to 1:30, and you can join us right after that here at the Clubhouse at 1:30. There we discuss how to launch ventures in the space. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Mariana. I would love for Carlos or David or Mariana for you to talk about this community building process and how important it is, not only for NFTs, but for any DeFi or DAO project, and why that is sort of the first step. It's a community first approach.
Yeah, so let me start with that. The community that we were building around media businesses for years, this sort of a fan community where people are participating because they have an emotional involvement with a piece of media, with the game, even with some interaction inside that game, with the idea that you can win it, that you may be viewed by other people, etc. That idea of community has fundamentally shifted in the crypto space. And it shifted in the early days of crypto when layer one networks were launched, when Ethereum was launched, and when, and I ran an angel group that invested in the launch of Ethereum. So, like, even in those early projects, the community was very different than the community that we knew before, and this community was building the project. So Ethereum, developers are getting paid for managing nodes on the Ethereum network, and same with Cardano, and same with layer twos like Polygons of the world, etc. So they were more vested in being part of that community because, one, they were earning revenue. Two, they held tokens in the community, so they were investors in the community. And three, there was the pride associated with sort of launching breakthrough project. This now shifted to these NFT communities, and I'll let Carlos talk more about them, but it's the same idea except with creative people. So these are almost intrinsically a lot more engaged groups of people, a lot more vested in the value of the project than ever before. And I wouldn't even think of them as traditional communities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Um, these people, I shouldn't say these people, I'm one of them. Our community is very sticky, I'd like to say. It's a very addictive community in the sense that once you join a specific community and you're hardcore about a project, you're probably going to mention that to at least 5+ people a day. And I know it sounds silly, but that being said, I can't even eh, I can't even count the times I get hit up by just random people asking me now, hey, what is an NFT? How do I get involved? What exactly is this? Should I get involved right now? Should I start to invest? And the first thing I tell them is join a community. And I think that that really speaks to what you guys are talking about. Before you start to invest, really learn about the community, about the project, read the white paper if you can find one, which I always recommend. If there's not a white paper associated with it, you might want to start looking twice at that project and really ask yourself why you're investing in this. There's probably a larger risk associated with that. So I want people to be successful in purchasing NFTs. So I always recommend try to find a project that already has a big backing to start out so that you feel comfortable. Some that I can recommend right off the back, if you love the NBA, go for NBA Top Shot. Very simple, straightforward transaction. Have your first NFT, within a couple minutes. Um, but that being said, if you're looking for DeFi projects, you really want to join a community and really be a part of it. There's Discord rooms that you could join. There's all kinds of Twitter spaces that are very popular right now where people are just sitting there all day talking about their NFTs. So, my recommendation, once again, is to join the community and then ultimately try to get involved in the community before making your purchase, and then that way you'll know what you're purchasing in advance. I couldn't even mention how important community is for these projects, because if you're in a DeFi project and there is no community, it's pretty safe to say that this project, I'm not going to say is not going to be successful, but the probability is much lower that you're going to have a success rate with something that doesn't have a community already built into it.
And to that point, when you're starting a new venture, especially in the fintech or media spaces, because those are the two that are being disrupted the most at the moment, this is not the end, this is the beginning of the wave. It was fintech and now entertainment, media, all forms of media, right? If you're starting a venture in any of these two spaces, and let's say you want to do an NFT drop of some sort in order to fund your project, get some publicity for your project, get some initial revenue in. If you're not thinking of dropping a collection, you're not going to be competitive. That's how bad that is right now. So, because you won't have the community, you won't have this group of people that's dedicated to the cause, to the business you're building, and without it, you're really competing kind of apples to oranges with the rest of the market, reshaping entertainment and fintech businesses.
I couldn't agree more, and I can give a good example here. So, some people might be familiar with Shakira. She's one of the biggest artists in the world. She did a NFT. She even posted about how she was launching the NFT on her social media channels, etc. I went into that NFT, purchased four of them, and, to be honest, I don't ever see myself being able to resell those. And the reason is because there was no really thought into the project. It was just, let's go ahead and launch something and sell a one off. So if she had done a collection, I truthfully believe that there would be much more growth in it. And over time, maybe that is the goal. But right now, as it stands, I pretty much lost $2,000 on that one.
Yeah, there was in the news this week another situation where a NFT collection, I guess, built on Squid Game went from, I don't know, 24,000 to zero. Am I reading that right, Mariana? Did you get a chance to take a
I
look at
think
that?
it went up to 2,800, but it was
Oh,
like a point oh, 6 cents or something to start. So a few people did get quite a bit of a run up on that one.
but
It was on Pancake Swap.
oh, okay. But then it ended up at zero, right? It was that a pump and dump or was that just a poorly executed plan?
Pump and dump. And,
Um,
this is the thing. Squid Game is the number one show of all time for Netflix. I went to their premiere last night. They flew in everyone from Korea. It was really interesting to hear the actors and, the creator and, how they put this project together. But they had nothing to do with the NFT drop or the token drop on Pancake Swap. So you have to really do your research and understand who's behind the project. And with some of these projects, they're being anonymous by design. You still have to do the research. If a project is anonymous by design, like one of the Bored Apes Yacht Clubs or any of those kinds of things, you have to still do the research because you don't know if it's associated with the actual brand or if it's a fake project. So I'm with Carlos on that.
hmm. What are some tools that you can use to do this research? Where should people start?
Well, certainly Infiom. We should pin that we have a YouTube channel and we have events twice a week. We do these to educate the community so they can, approach the business development in a more organized and systematic and strategic way. We have something called Infium Boost. If you're launching a venture, we help you launch it um, with all those kind of, background information that we assembled in our community over the past few years being in the space. Also, you can read our newsletter, which we send every Sunday. And if you just go to our website, I'll try to pin it here. You can sign up for the newsletter. We have leads to different marketplaces you can, get crypto from, and we also have information about our events.
Yeah, I'm pinning the link right now.
And we're working on an NFT boost at the moment where if you're launching a project and you're not thinking about doing a collection drop that Carlos was describing, and or you're not thinking about what the business model is for your venture, as you drop the NFTs, we do an NFT boost and we help you kind of think through those concepts.
Great. I want to remind everyone that this session is really for you. So if you have any questions, don't be shy, raise your hand. There's no question that is too simple or too complicated. We are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah,
So
take advantage
go
of the
ahead, Carlos.
resource, everyone. Mariana, truthfully really knows this industry very, very well as Jeanette. So when you're in the crowd, never hesitate. I was one of those people that I'd always be scared to come up and ask a question, but there has to be something that's, percolating in your mind. If not, you wouldn't be here today. So, we always love to hear from you guys, even if it's just to say hi. I couldn't I just want to make sure it resonates with everyone how important it is to sign up for the newsletter. When you're in the Infiom newsletter, you're going to get a lot of information and access to things that you normally wouldn't be able to very quickly. So, take advantage of that resource versus, trying to go online. If you are looking for your first project, look into the newsletter, and feel free to ask us questions. That's what we're here for.
Mariana, I was wondering if you wanted to comment on any themes that you felt stuck out for you at Infinity Festival last week.
Well, it was fascinating to see people who really are at the forefront of AR and VR development and have been for years. Really don't understand how that integrates with NFTs, metaverse, play to earn type concepts that have been fast, speeding through the development, if you'd like, on the crypto side. And I think fundamentally, it's almost like they're being left in the dust, just like film, television, music companies, traditional ones. And you wouldn't expect that from them because they were the head, ahead on the innovation of the entertainment business. So that was really kind of interesting to see for the first time in my career.
That is so cool. I noticed that Pascal just joined. Mariana, should we invite him up to
Yes,
tell
of
us what's
course. I
new?
don't think I'm a moderator, so please
Oh,
invite him.
okay.
Yeah.
I always forget to do that every time. So come on up, Pascal. Tell us what's new. It sounds like things are exciting for you right now. I know that. Oh, is he coming up? I think we lost him.
It's
Okay.
like, I think, midnight in France.
Oh, yeah. He may not feel up to having deep discussions right now. Uh,
Do you mind me asking real quick about if anybody at the Infinity Festival was doing anything with holograms yet? The reason is because, just so you know, I'm extremely interested in that space. I've been studying that space for a couple years now, and there are some major advancements. Um, and, I don't want to speak too much to them because obviously they're kind of privy to me right now just because I want to make sure that I take advantage of this opportunity. But did you guys see any major hologram companies out there by chance?
I did not see any hologram companies, Carlos, but I am deep at work for trends casting and speaking and white paper for CES, and there are definitely going to be some hologram players there. So I hope you can come out and see that.
Yes, I'd love to. Let's take that offline.
Yeah,
It's really exciting stuff I want to share with you.
awesome, awesome. Very excited about that. Yuri, do you have a question? Welcome back. We're always glad to see you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Mariana. And Carlos, you've said the right thing. Like people are here for some reason. They want to learn something new, and I'm always learning something new in your rooms here. Thank you so much for those. Um, so my question today is, I have friends who are like, they are working on a GameFi project, right? So the Axie Infinity fame doesn't doesn't let people sleep night. But many projects are kind of rubbish, but there are some out there who are somewhat interesting because they start from the game point of view, and only then they add all the DeFi component to it, kind of. So my question is rather practical. From your point of view, if you were starting a project like that today, uh, where where would you do it? What I mean is, for example, in the states, right? Some states are welcoming kind of such projects. Some states are clearly not. And on the international scene, I don't know, some Switzerland, for example, or Singapore, those countries that I know of. But do you know, like, for you, where would you start it? In the U.S., in which state, and if outside of the U.S.?
Oh, those are great questions, Yuri. Is this a DAO or is it a centralized company?
Uh, it's not a centralized company. The point, well, I've spoken to my friends and a couple of other projects. They are all work with this goal of rather arriving to a DAO because they don't like how the industry, the centralized one works. So they all want to arrive to a DAO at some.
So the only legalized DAO regulation is in Wyoming in the US, right? So they have created that just for this particular purpose. There are many other jurisdictions that are very focused on creating regulation to spur growth of these kinds of companies. So, Singapore wants to be the center of everything. They've been at it for a very long time. Malta had regulations since 2018 for these kinds of companies. You should definitely consider looking into Switzerland and Luxembourg and many of the countries in the Caribbean are very, very open to these kinds of companies. So you have to find a jurisdiction. This is a legal discussion with there are many lawyers that actually focus on this area. Once you have a legal jurisdiction, you can set up your DAO. The most important thing in setting up the company is not so much a jurisdiction as it is, what the business model is and what are the rules of engagement for the DAO. And then, of course, what kind of a play to earn game is it? There's just hundreds of these being launched that I hear about every day, and rightly so, because play to earn is here to stay, and it is providing a way for people out of poverty in variety of countries around the world, and you're going to buy their attention with the ability to earn revenue and get out of poverty and get at the better level of lifestyle. That is definitely a huge motivator and it's never going away.
Thank,
Yeah, I couldn't
thank.
agree more with Mariana. Yuri, thanks for coming up and asking a question. I've seen you in the rooms before, so I'm excited that you came up. That being said, definitely agree with Mariana on this topic. I'm not a legal expert, so I definitely try to refrain jumping on the legal things. But what I can tell you is definitely listen to Mariana's advice on the different jurisdictions. It's going to be very important for you to understand that aspect because the securities laws, etc., are different in different places. So, perfect example is we're in a global economy. So, if you are doing business in Singapore, you're going to have different restrictions from doing in the United States. So, what I would do is I take a step back, look at my target market, say, okay, where do I really want to grow? Do I really want to make this a global thing, or do I want to make it targeted to my region? And depending on the project, that's kind of how I would determine that. But that being said, definitely be very cognizant of different jurisdictions and the trouble that can be associated with that. So I definitely would look at legal advice before you specifically jump into that. And I know that Mariana is a great resource to help out with finding you the right people for that.
Thank you, Carlos. It's really really important. I totally agree with you because many people, many projects, they don't really think about it. They just launch something without kind of thinking, and they tell me like, oh, we will just launch and get some money, and then we'll just hire lawyers. And I keep telling them, come on, people, it will be too late by then, because if you launch first, you will get the money first without the solid legal ground. It's just not good. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll take a stab at it and hire a lawyer later is rarely a good plan for a significant effort. I've certainly found that to be the case. I I wanted to ask Mariana and Carlos what your feeling is about the direction that the U.S. is heading in terms of making it friendly and making it attractive for people to play in the DeFi and DAO space here, as opposed to piling up regulation that's going to make it difficult to navigate. Do you think that this is ultimately going to be a friendly place to do DeFi, or do you think that people are ultimately going to be fleeing elsewhere?
I don't know. I think we're at the stage where regulation is becoming more and more well thought through because we just have a little more information about what's going on in these markets, right? As when we first started, I think the U.S. usually leads. With regulatory approvals of new technologies in a positive way. We've done this for many, many years, which is what allowed us to be ahead of the curve in the markets. Look at, the Bitcoin mining and the mining operations. China decided to ban all of this, and now the U.S. is the market leader in Bitcoin mining. I feel that with major institutions trying to integrate DeFi into their own infrastructures, which is very challenging to do for them, but they're working on it. I feel that the US will lead the way in some sort of a, I would say, thoughtful adoption, and that's what I'm hoping we would do. Clearly, there's a competition between all sorts of jurisdictions around the globe to embrace these companies and to allow them safe havens to develop further. So I suspect that's the way I view our regulatory approvals. We have to sort of compete with everyone else.
Do you think that there's actually a lobbying force being built at this point to make sure that the interests of these DeFi companies are being maintained or taken into account?
I'm happy to speak to that. I'm 100% sure that there's various associations, digital asset associations that are heavily invested in the space, as well as, let's just put it this way, family offices. So that being said, definitely there are, major interests who have already, you know, um, lobbied with politicians, etc. And I think one of the key things that you're going to see that's very unique to NFTs versus crypto is that there's going to be much less renaissance and adoption from the government as far as NFTs, as long as it's not multi level marketing. But that's just my personal opinion. Once we hit that multi level marketing thing, that's when it's going to get really interesting, specifically in the United States.
Can you elaborate on that, Carlos? What you mean by the multi level marketing thing?
Yeah, once again, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that this is extremely concerning to these associations as well as the government. Basically, in the past, there's been many companies that have created entities that are multi level marketing companies that have basically been very similar to the same structure as NFTs, where you would purchase something and then ultimately it would be resold for a higher value. To a community without any value associated with it on the back end. And because of that, there are a lot of laws that have already been created specifically to protect consumers.
Do you think that there's a potential for this DeFi DAO NFT space to become a political scapegoat because not everybody understands it yet? Or do you think that there's enough people in the country now that are aware of it and excited about it that it's not going to become villainized?
I'm not sure I would, think of it as a scapegoat politically. I think what I would think of it is just like any other wave of innovation, right? Except that innovation and technologies are speeding up as we speak, right? So every wave is faster. This wave is multi-pronged. And as Carlos was pointing out, we have the cryptocurrency wave, the DeFi wave, and now the NFTs wave, right? And they're
Hmm.
all affecting different areas of the business, of the industries at the moment. Although there's quite a bit of cross bundling between these concepts into a variety of ventures. So I don't think that no political agenda could be using all of these different industries and all of these different changes that are happening literally at the speed of light as a scapegoat per se. But what's happening is that the incumbents are suffering, and we formed Infiom to help the incumbents. We want to onboard them faster than slower. We want to help them get into the space, but they're kind of being left behind. If you look at the Bitcoin ETF approval, which we waited for, I don't know, a couple of years now, where we thought, oh, for sure this is going to get done in 2019. And here we are, 2021. It finally got done. But there are 500 DeFi index funds that are already trading based on our newsletter last week. So you could have had similar exposure that that ETF is giving you in our market through 500 other vehicles that are already available, trading 24/7. You can get in, you can get out. You don't have to wait 2 days to settle. You don't have to wait another 2 days to transfer your money from that account to a regular account. You see how that is just sort of kind of getting these ETFs launched through the equity markets. It's almost like reshuffling chairs on the deck of the Titanic compared to these 500 things that are up and running and have billions of dollars locked value.
That's great. Just sort of a esoteric question I wanted to ask. I mean, as I was reading about how you can be compensated for doing work in various DAOs, I mean, I was astonished at the amounts of money that are being spent on this. I mean, that yes, you're being paid in whatever coin the DAO is using, but hundreds of thousands of dollars and even up to seven figures are being paid out for some of this. So I was wondering, boy, if I was looking in college, if I was a young kid right now looking for a gig, I was like, I would study smart contracts, right? So it seems like a lot of the guys that are, or gals that are writing the smart contracts and validating those smart contracts are being compensated extremely well. Are there other areas of like 5 years ago, I was telling everybody to study AI because there was a huge shortage. What do you think these kids should be studying right now to be in the best place?
Great question, Jeanette. And as someone who just recently, got my executive education for the first cohort ever at MIT for AI leadership, I can tell you that there's going to be no shortage of jobs in AI, specifically within the next 100 years. If you need a specific number, until something gets created that's going to be more dominant in the marketplace, I don't see anything that is bigger in the future than AI, with the exception of maybe biotech. That could possibly overtake it over time, just because biotech specifically is the future. There is definitely gene. There's a lot of things that are being done. Perfect example with CRISPR technology and advancements specifically in quantum technology. So I recommend studying quantum computing combined with AI and biotech if you're asking me.
Yeah, also, I think in addition to that, you have to think about your career differently than your parents may be telling you to think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your parents, and we experienced this firsthand with some of our friends and interns and younger people coming into the space. The parents are expecting a job, right? It's like you graduated from college, you graduated from business school or some other master's degree that you gotten, and now where is that salary, Where is the job with a company that's going to do well, where you may have some stock options and kind of, get to the next level quickly. Um, that is not what most of the kids are doing. You know,
Yeah.
and the kid and the thing about that is just beautiful that this is possible. This gig economy is really not like driving a car anymore or renting a room, but it's about follow your passion. Maybe you're a musician, maybe you are an artist, maybe you like to train people, you're a fitness teacher, maybe you're someone who can create film and television programming, even though it's not maybe, feature films yet. And you can possibly find a way to monetize this through some form of NFTs, in addition to maybe doing some other jobs in the gig economy. So it becomes this vision of, this vision of micropayments in and out and liquidity of payments that I read by the editors of Wired magazine maybe a decade ago, that everything is, our economy is not going to be about owning all this stuff, but subscribing to the streams of data that we want to be subscribing to, and then getting paid via streams of money for the work that we do in the economy. So everything is going to be very liquid, sort of payments in, payments out. And cryptocurrency markets allowed that to actually came to reality. So we are living in that reality today.
Yes, to bring this around full circle back to when we started talking about the trends at Infinity Festival, one of the things that really struck me was Anne Greenberg had said that her kids won't do anything unless they're getting paid. Like their entertainment, their gaming, their information work, they expect to be paid. And I think part of that is because, people have said, well, have NFTs and DeFi and DAOs, are they going where they're going because of the pandemic? And I would say yes, but not for the reason that people expect. I think the reason that it is so impactful is that the pandemic caused the entire world to take a minute and pause and think about what they wanted. And I think that drove this younger generation to find these new ways to make money. I think to your point, Mariana.
Yes, so we kind of drove them there because of the unstable market. But I think now, they were sort of born with this idea that they can become famous within their lifetime. This is not new. This has been around, pre-influencer economy or,
Yeah.
creator economy. But the like my
Yeah.
generation didn't think, oh, we're going to be famous, within our lifetime. We thought, let's have a great job, let's have a great lifestyle and call it a day kind of a thing. These guys come into it feeling, okay, I have something I'm really great at. I should be famous for that. And so once you start thinking in that direction, you can today in this market start to monetize that one thing you're great at that you think you should be famous about, right? And so that drives it. So there's like a full circle of drive to monetize that component, but also they may have to monetize some other components of their talent, like, their brain power of some sort, their math knowledge, their English knowledge, and can also make money that way. So I feel that's becoming a norm.
And I think, Mariana hit it on the head and as well. Follow your passion, if you are studying something, whatever you're most passionate about, you can probably that into an NFT one way or another, or a DAO, or some sort of DeFi project. So there's no need for you to kind of pick in between. And then a secondary thing I just want to point out is I know a lot of people that previously were driving Uber and stuff like that, and ironically, the time spent that they spent on driving Uber, they're making more money on flipping NFTs now. And I'm not telling people financial advice. This is not financial advice, but there is a market there. If you do learn it, it could be an opportunity for you to make some money, but it could also be an opportunity for you to lose some money. So just really study and continue to listen to Infiom. And thank you for everybody being here. I think that we have some very exciting topics to continue to explore. And in the future, I totally see, the metaverse. I just want to point out is a huge thing for the younger generation. The metaverse has, I remember things of artists talking about planets over 20 years ago, when MySpace existed. People were already starting to create these things that were metaverses, but they were called virtual planets. And those virtual planets were people were spending millions of dollars to develop these projects. Those projects never succeeded, but those projects are coming back now full circle because the technology is available now. So that's the key difference that I think we're going to see. And also the AR and VR exploration, perfect example of Facebook. They are ahead strategically, in the sense that they're creating a metaverse that's going to be pretty intense. Let's put it that way, in the sense that everything that's 2D will turn 3D.
Thank you, Carlos. And I just want to remind everyone that if you want to take full advantage of the information and tools we have at Infiom, just go to www.infiom.com. It's pinned up there at the top, and join the mailing list to make sure that you do not miss out on our clubhouses, which we have every Tuesday from 10 to 11, and every Wednesday from 1:30 to 2:30, and also our Zoom every other week with our experts panel that we bring on, and also our newsletter. So go to infium.com and sign up. And thank you, deep thanks to our panel today for your input.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for hosting this, Jeanette and Mariana. Everyone have a great day.
Bye, Carlos.
See you guys tomorrow, 12:30
Bye.
Zoom and 1:30 here. Bye-bye.
Bye. And thanks for your
Bye.
question,
Thanks,
Jerry, as
Jeanette.
always. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.